This is Regina's Rabbit Hole, and this is Siren Buddha Medicine Talk Therapy, and we are speaking with wisdom. Today we're talking about
psychological warfare.
psychological warfare.
Right, of these particular modern times, of this modern time right now.
Yeah, the conversation was juicy, so we decided to tape.
Right, so basically it's based on life perseverance, so to speak, life experience, what one has been through. We know that psychology is a study of emotions and the behavior, and so we know what warfare is, you know, and so that definitely is created, the war, and is it really fair? So let's dig into it. Talking about, I particularly always talk about what's going on with my people. Some would include the Hispanics and the Native Indians, but I'll just stick it to the real what's going on with us as Black people.
Okay, so psychological warfare. I think the biggest thing right now we were talking about was, the everyday person and how we have been damaged to the point where we feel like the stories that we see that are mystical, that happen in the media, in the medium, the space in between our hearts and our minds where we think that something could possibly happen to us, where we take on somebody else's dreams and interpretations of us, the media. We're not thinking that certain things apply to us. We automatically think that mysticism doesn't apply to us. We hear about things like from the Montauk Project and the Philadelphia Project, and we hear about different things that are going on, but we don't feel like any of those things apply to us. Area 51, it's always some white person that we see that's having mystical experiences. But what about Bernie Mac? Where is that story like amongst us? That man gave his life and in the underground clone cities, and you know what I'm saying? That's a fantastical freaking story. That happened in real life, people say. It's even being backed by other people from Hollywood, that he was a hero to them. So that's a hero, a real life hero, right? So where is that story amongst us? We hearing about when we see ourselves, the psychological warfare, we see ourselves in movies like The Butler, right? Boys in the Hood. And we think it's fantastic to see our story there, right? Mm-hmm. But it's us at our lowest form, and that pivotal point in our mind, we never see ourselves as great people, capable of some fantastic or mystical stuff. And that's where the war on the psychological warfare is because it's putting ourselves in a position to see ourselves in that space that allows us to pull and the new stuff, I'm saying, the different things, the things that are not of the norm, that change us as a society.
So the question to you is, the psychological warfare, what is it doing? Let's talk in our communities. Because people are always talking, but it's like, okay, if you're doing something, and we'll go into tubas, because the tubas now basically are a voice for the community. That means if you have something to say, you have that freedom of speech to say it, and is it, once again, we talked before about the individual quest one wants to journey on, but when does it come a community quest? That because you want views, so the views are you're communicating, and then it forms into a community of people that can get together and make a change. So if one is just just follow la 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 around, where is the change come? Because basically, what us the psychological warfare is that when we went through the aftermath of that at some point in time where we say, well, we are definitely equal with them, and then we put it on the table, it's not. It's way off, And then when we start to try to dissect it, then it says, "Oh, you're a racist," or "You're not being fair." And it's just blatant. It's as blatant as when we walk into stores to purchase something, or if whatever we buy, or whatever, or even our thinking. Our thinking is psychologically damaged. Just to think what's going on, because if we had our right, we have to be out of our minds to do the things that we do on a normal level. What we do in general as a people right now, we definitely something psychological going on. If I can continue to go in to your store, and then you're not coming to my store, there's a problem. Good, bad, or indifferent. That means that the information and the cause that's going on with my people, another people are telling me this can be, and then the other people that are in the oppressed state of mind, say physically, mentally, and spiritual, follow that which was not them physically, but was a part of that. Could be could be a distraction for what our quest and journey need to be on. Which meaning, the majority of women in a same state of mind and structure overall. Men and the children, but we're all on an individual state. And so therefore it's causing a massive disarray in our thinking. So you'll be like, oh, well, I'm doing this and I'm doing that and I'm doing this and I'm doing that. And then psychologically that which oppress us is sponsoring our thinking.
Okay. The first thing I want to say is that as a group of people or as a society, we were different tribes, right? So that means that there was, our creator already knew that we had different methods of doing things and thinking. You could cover the zodiac on that as like different attributes. For one thing, as far as our psychological warfare, we compartmentalize so much. And we don't realize that there's so many layers to one thing. We've chosen not to think and give the reins to contemplating situations and things to someone else. We adopted someone else's interpretation of society by using that compartmentalization, and that's part of the psychological warfare. Like, we want to one-dimensionalize what we're seeing, even in regards to people and what we're capable of. That's one of the biggest problems. It's one thing or nothing instead of all or nothing. If somebody or something is more than one thing, then we got to think about. We have to think differently on how we interact with it. And to me, it's just a part of the indoctrination and television, the medium, ways to bring in ways to bring in entities, these archons, these thought forms that other people had, other people's interpretation of us. We bring them in by looking at them on the television, and the movies and stuff. Moving ease, like moving bricks, you know what I'm saying? Like, they move these thought forms in the movies, and they put a lot of money into it because they embed in our minds like these pictures. And we think some of them are so cool, right, that we put them on. They go into our psyche and they attach to certain experiences and stuff that we're having or had in the past. So these things are attaching to our negative experiences, like slavery, like low self-esteem, like the butler, like roots, and we're just so happy to see ourselves. And yes, we're connecting to a part of ourselves, but see, the psychological warfare is the science and the alchemy that they're doing on our people, and it's some real serious ish. Let me expound on it for one moment. The deep sciences that they're doing is how, when we look at something, the image that we see that's from this great big cosmic egg from beyond, somebody serves up something. And so they give it to us, bam, it's on the table. we pressed the dial, we pushed the button, and we decided what we want to see according to our intentions, right? Sometimes we're just put into situations like culturally, like being exposed to education and stuff like that. But other times we choose it in regards to our entertain, to be intertwined in something. And so just like music, we take and we put on these spiritual thought forms and we digest them. And what it is an upgraded form of slavery. They're one dimensional. They're not meant to have us expounding. See, liberation is being able to think and be around other people that can think, being free to be yourself, right? But when you're in a restricted society, you can't do that. So anyway, we're perceiving things from this big cosmic egg in our minds. We see it upside down, and then it's turned right side up, so it flips. Then the images that we see, they're doing science because they're taking women that are really men and, exposing them as men. So we're thinking that we're seeing a man, but it's really a woman. And then they're doing the same thing with men. We think we're seeing a woman, but it's really a man. So spiritually, they're flipping the essences of the thing that we're looking at, as well as the image. And we're flipping it in our mind. There's a spiritual alchemy to this. And then, instead of us seeing ourselves empowered, like all this Greek movies like The Tempest and Shakespeare and stuff, these are our ancient stories. These are our stories from before they totally broke down our civilization, when some of our mysticism and our greatness was still intact, when the stories were still attached to our lineage, before they started breaking us down and moved into the age of enlightenment, where we're knocking the noses off of all the statues and stuff like that, and making it look like they didn't have big black lips, and covering up our ancient civilization. So we're seeing ourselves on there as white people, right? And everything that we see, all the heroes are white. All the sci-fi stuff where they're in the future and you go in and you save the earth, pretty much they're white. So they're doing this flipping thing, when usually the people that are self-sacrificing, right, and heroic, like the Tuskegee Airmen, like those soldiers who volunteered for the syphilis program. You know what I'm saying? Like, we're some like the figures of Martin Luther King. If you look at it, right, the figures that came out of society that were great, minus the presidents that came out of society that were black men, oh my goodness. Marcus Garvey and Malcolm X, right? And even our present, the Muslim.
Obama?
No, the one who's in charge right now, Farrakhan. Okay? The speakers that we have from our communities are great. They do all kinds of stuff to them and put the fear in our society not to speak up. But yet, the only great speakers that you see come from them are who? The presidents and stuff, right? And one was Obama. So I'm just saying the image is war on our mind.
Even on that level and all that same, and since slavery was abolished in 1865, that means that from the 1500s all the way into 1865, we were physically beating. Physically, it was okay to beat, and you worked and you beat slavery, which means that we built up the United States, which is today. The technology today was as a result of our slavery, and so we don't get any kind of, and people say, what do you call it, reparation, that we are seeking. So psychologically, we say, well, let's get educated, but we have to understand, and going back, why were colleges built? Because that which was in power didn't have the educational component, you understand what I'm saying, to build up a great nation as today, far as structurally what we see today. And it took them a period of time. So in the colleges, that's why they had Dr. George Washington, Carver, who made 118 different products, who those who had when so-called slavery was abolished, he was the one who showed them how to turn their crops, because remember, a lot of slaves left off,
Yep.
but you had the renegade whites who were in fear,
That
and that's like
helps.
another whole story.
That helps with
But
economy, right?
We're talking about the psychological damage now. Before,
Industrial, when the industrial age came in and the farming age was dying down.
yeah, yeah.
That is a whole
And so-
different story. Yeah.
Yeah. So, basically we're talking about the mind of being psychological. There were slaves who coached their house and field and group. Those who live comfortably, you know what I'm saying, like a shoe mat. It's the same thing as those who live comfortably or so-called comfortably that don't really want money, but just wanting to be the state of something else, but getting back into where we're saying the psychological damage began was after it was abolished. Those particular slaves, they were already psychologically damaged because they didn't catch the beatings that were their so-called brothers and sisters caught, right? So that hate began right then and there, right? So upon the abolishment of the 1865 and being let go, you understand what I'm saying? Right now, today, we still is in the same thing. Only thing is updated. We're updated. It's same. The slavery's now, but we're updated, and we're saying we're not getting beaten, in physics, but mentally we're getting beaten. And when you say, well, how so? Because the so-called leaders that you have named, let's look at Marcus Garvey, great man. But there was so much jealousy among them. They lived a very law. There was one thing, they were lawless. There wasn't like maybe a 250-year plan like China, right? China has a 250-year plan, right? Executed ultimately, right? But they also have a 25-year plan, a 50-year plan that is being executed. When we're looking at, I could say my jungle brothers, because they be wilding with all this intelligence like it's new, like a euphoria, right? But what is the plan? What is the plan for 5 years where all the brothers and the sisters are structural and leave the sex alone? That's why you have to have laws, which meaning in the group of people, right? Everybody should be able to provide opinion, but there should be certain laws one should not do. You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
Which means it's a total violation. So you mean psychologically, you got to be out of your mind to violate that. We want to talk about universal law. So then why would you mess with a chemical as a universal law? So why would you put a chemical that can violate the nature? You have to be out of your mind. You understand what I'm saying? So when you're looking at us as a people, we should be to cut through all the chase. And let's break down some barriers, you understand what I'm saying, that was put before a system. So once you recognize the system, psychologically, it damages. So you're saying the education component, right? Psychologically, when we send our kids to school, right, it takes away bits and pieces. So we go on things like me. I don't believe in a zodiac. You know what I'm saying? Because it's far-fetched and it's changing. It will switch. You never know. It's like an estimate. We want something concrete. Yes or no. Not maybe. That's why science is just to know. Psychologically, we need to know about who we are before we step into another culture that waters down who we are. So psychologically, it damages us as a nation of people. It affects us. This is where we don't have stores. You know what I'm saying? We don't have our own. If you go to my store, I go to your store. You don't go to my store, I don't go to your store. So then why I'm in your store?
Let me expound on that the economics is part of the psychological warfare, okay? Because that's part of the create a problem and then be the solution. If I'm always mama, if I'm always the one with the resources, then you always have to come to me and you're subjected to me. And that's by design, okay? That's part of the upgraded slavery, is controlling those economics. That's what the integration part was, because that's what the controlling the imagery.
Has the mind integrated too?
Right, okay, because when in our minds, somebody else has something better than us and it's always greener on the other side, we enslave ourselves and we gravitate towards an illusion. For instance, in the educational system, we're taught in all these books and stuff about how great thou art, right? And then on the money, we see because we want stuff. Even when we go to get stuff, we see how great thou art. That's psychological. Every time you go to pay for something, every time you do something, you see this face and this, and every black family, even if you change that face of Jesus on the wall, at one point it was white. At one point, you know what I'm saying? If you came from this part, if you wanted to be accepted in society and you wanted to buy and sell.
Is it wrong for it to be white?
Yes.
Then why?
Because what I'm saying is that we're sticking with the psychological warfare, the imagery. Like I went through that big spiel about imagery being upside down and flip right side up, and how we never see ourselves as a hero. That's another aspect of it. That's another dimension of it. That's the alchemy. That's the black magic. They're literally doing triggering something that's an alchemy in the brain and in the spirit when we look at something, and do an alchemy to mess it up. It's an actual physical thing that
what is alchemy?
happening. So wait a second.
I'm saying, what is alchemy?
Okay, alchemy is like if you have ammonia and you put in bleach, it's going to have an alchemical reaction. It's going to respond. That's when two different substances or two different energies respond to one another. Alchemy is knowing that you can take copper to remove negative energy, or copper and brass to remove, that it helps to remove bacteria,
So
makes it resistance. Yes, it's alchemy is.
I mean, I know what it is.
It could be a problem or a solution. It's medicine, or it's a way to move energy. It's part of the way that we're not thinking is the reason why someone else has the upper hand.
Right.
Okay. Now, in regards to education, back to education, right? The alchemy of always seeing them as the hero in the books and the history books, his story, even the
heroes though.
No, Ken.
I'm just saying we talk about.
No, they're not, because let me finish just one sentence. That's the illusion. They're not the heroes. They're depicting themselves. It's a front, because this civilization is built on our civilization.
I understand, but what I'm saying,
heroes don't slaughter everything.
If they're not heroes, when we getting our information, we want to go to
from them.
When we get our information, we copycat each other. As soon as we hear a video, they say overstanding. Yeah, they say, oh, we overstand because in our mind it sounds good, it stimulates us. We hear, but oh yeah, it's a new word all day long. This is why I say once that becomes you're being trained. You haven't even looked up the information on that which one listen to. Say, hold up. Even if they are strangers, which I would call a stranger that which is a ruling class now. Bottom line, that's what dominate. So I'm saying, well, if I give them information, do I get the information and keep it moving to strengthen me? So I'm a biblical man. You understand? That's why I always speak about law. If we start talking about law, see, you can't move nowhere first until you establish law. This is how the United States move. They have laws, and then they have constitutions. We as a people, we need to establish those laws before we go on with these wild different theories and conspiracies and stuff like that.
Everybody has a job to do, you know what I'm saying? And it's for everybody to know where their place is. It's that stagnation and trying to get everybody to be fixated into one aspect of something that is Europeanized. That's not us. That's not our culture.
It is actually. That's why we have it. That's why we have the conversation of the psychological being. So what you do, you learn from people, and then you're able to freestyle yourself with everything that you abstract. Then you're able to articulate and say, "This is what I see at a point." You know what I'm saying?
Right. It's being able to think for yourself that makes you the wise man. That's why the village went to the entrusted wise man, because he was thinking not just for himself, but for everybody, because he had a different way of being able to put pieces together that other people wouldn't normally be able to do.
What you just said, though.
Why is that oxymoron?
Because
we had wise people. No,
you said, yeah.
Or that we.
You asked me why. I'm giving you the answer.
Okay.
You said that the wise man was all to himself, but no, the wise man was for the people.
I just said that.
You know what you said.
I said he was for the people.
No, but at first you said he wasn't. He definitely didn't. But
I said he's not thinking for himself. He's thinking for the people.
Right, but then what I'm saying in our conversation, we're talking about everybody being on the same page, and then you can.
But wait a minute. That's what I'm saying. Okay, we're looking at this the wrong way. All right. take the ego out of it. Everybody is not on the same page. If you look at the body, right? We got a head, we got limbs, you know what I'm saying? They all do something different. And our Creator made us the same way. See, that's the education part. For instance, what makes them, right, so much better than us, because we have it in our brain that they're so much better than us, if they're doing all this stupid crap. They don't even understand the principles that our Creator gave us. One being, one second. Hey, Sweet Pea.
Hey guys.
Hey, what's up, man?
Hey. We're doing
Can
a
you
live.
can you go to Dunkin' Donuts?
Okay. So, one being on the education, right?
We shouldn't even go see. We shouldn't even go to Dunkin' Donuts, but we are. Okay, I'm sorry.
On the Dunkin' Donuts. On the education thing, we have it in our minds because of the way that they structured stuff. And it's just part of the black magic, the dark magic. Okay?
Oh,
Even
baby.
in the words, everything is... I'm getting thrown off of my thought, and I'm really trying to stay on track with our mind control, right? How we're controlled in our minds. This education part was so important. So I'm gonna leave that part with the education, and then that's the programming. Teaching us to only see one aspect of things when there's many different attributes. Our Creator, they don't understand. That's what I was saying. They don't understand our Creator, although they're using our ancient methods. Yes, we are one people, but like the 12 tribes, we all have a different duty and a different job to do. We have different attributes. So, as wise people, we would know that each one of us have different attributes that we specialize in. So no, all of us are not the wise man, and all of us are not the organizer, and all of us are not the person that can grow things, and we need that food, and all of us are not the medicine person. All of us are not, but as a group, we have those things, and we learn to appreciate the different attributes of us as a whole, like the body.
Should there be a law?
Because if you're missing a hand, you ain't going very
But
far.
let me ask you something. Could a people, even the YouTubers, and I say you because they are people being watched.
That's
right?
the miseducation. I just wanted to say that's the
Sure.
miseducation piece that I've been trying to
So
put
with the
there.
miseducation piece and the psychological damage that's being done, should a person be permitted to speak and say, well, it's a freedom of speech and I can say what I want and do what I want
Yes.
to do?
Yeah.
And you say,
No.
yeah. Right, and it's a very confusing point because you should be able to say, well, if you are an individual and you're not bound and you're not obligated to nothing, and then thinking that, oh, I'm free, but yet you see that you freaking bound when you wake up in the morning and you walk out, you see what it is. The news is there, the events is there, the damage is there, the percentage of women and men is there. You understand? And then you say, oh, we cool, we good, we going places. You have to be out. Malcolm X said it better. You have to be out of your mind.
Can I say this? Yeah, you have to be out of your mind. Because
Right,
let me say this,
Sure.
right?
Yep.
We were talking the other day and saying if there was no law, because you were saying that there has to be law. If there
There has
was
to be
no
law.
law, would people still want to do good?
But there is no law. That's what I'm saying to you, right? And I'm glad you said that.
Wait, that's what I'm saying.
Sure.
There is no law.
There is no law.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You can tell that that's the reality of it. We're told one thing, we're paying attention to what
Not
we're the
educated.
dialogue, but miseducated to pay
But-
attention to the truth, and that is if you're so wonderful, why the heck are you doing that?
Well, the law.
If you're so smart, then how you messing up stuff and being so
But then
stupid?
how many laws biblically, when a person opened up the Bible, they're missing a whole bunch of the first thing in the Bible. That ain't why, because the psychological damage was done what? Between a European
Yes.
period.
We're paying attention to a false
Period.
narrative. It's right in our face
Well,
that the things are being destroyed,
well,
right? So isn't it, that's part of the psychological warfare right there, is not being able to acknowledge what is right in front of our face.
True, if one gonna open up that black book and it tells you, it gives you a dress code, a dietary code, it gives you a moral, it gives you a civil code. It gives you those laws right there, which in our community, if we was to adhere to this 5 of those laws, 3 of those, it would eliminate a whole lot. It would say, because economically, we love to dress. So it shows us we have some form of royalty because the majority of the black, we're supposed to be ruling. We're supposed to be the ruling class, which meaning what? There will be no homelessness, right? There will be no lewd sexual acts. You understand what I'm saying? Everybody you would come and everybody would eat. You understand what I'm saying? That is that is not happening now. People think that you're doing these things and traveling, but you're traveling to a darker, deeper place, and our circumstances is worse now than when we was beaten in physical slavery. We knew who. Today we don't even know who our enemy is. We know that we hate one another. It is evidence in the black home. Now, in most black homes that you go into, you see the psychological there. Why? The woman I told you, and the man, he'll fall down. He's not taking his rightful place. It's evidence because of fear. We talked about fear the other day, but we talking about the psychological out of your mind to just go to work and then after that you watching sports and and it's not sitting together to understand like the condition that we're in.
I don't think that we are all supposed to have the same exact kind of lifestyle, and that we should have the right to tell each other that. What I do feel like is that the law is not outside, it starts inside. It's written in the heart of man, and that when a man is not following the law inside his heart and doesn't have a personal relationship with the Creator, he wants to go. No, it's not an oxymoron. Okay. And then he wants to go dictating rules and regulations and law outside, thinking that if he could just make every man follow these laws, but he hasn't followed it within his own heart, then everything will be okay. That's projection. And that's part of the lie. Like, okay, that's part of the lawlessness that we have, where we go to courts thinking that you're going to get justice. But he says it's just us. Can you pay? So basically, when he changes them flags up and stuff.
And you're running the tape right now. The psychological damage that we're talking right now is you stated. We don't have to be. We can do whatever we want, and that's what we're doing. That's basically what you said in a nutshell. If you play the tape recorder back,
I said that people have the right to do whatever. You didn't let me finish. I think that let me finish, okay, and let me expound on that. Each of us have the right to do what you want, but we also have the right to dictate within this space.
So you have to start in yourself.
We can have the right. Let me finish. That's why I'm not able to finish.
I'm going to let you finish.
You're not letting me finish.
You're going in like 10. If you play 10, you're going in 10 different areas.
No, I'm not. You're not letting me.
We can hold on. I don't want to argue with you.
I'm not going to lose my thought while you keep cutting me off.
I understand that. I'm trying to be peaceful. What I'm saying is, you're going in 10 different places, and we're losing the audience. You're going into. We can play. You going and just. I want you to expound on each one if you can. Respectfully.
Then let me do that.
Okay, if you
Stop cutting me off, and I can do that.
You're going in 10 different areas.
No, I'm not.
Okay.
There's only 2 different areas
here.
Okay,
continue. Okay. Yes.
Now let me expound. Yeah. You have the right to dictate that you want to have certain laws and rules within your space.
Is that individual person or everybody?
As a group.
Okay, as a group, yes, it all.
However, we have not gotten there yet.
Okay,
in this time, space.
Wow.
That's what we need, because other people who have lawlessness in their hearts, okay,
do the group have? I'm trying to understand. Do the group have that?
You can't have the group until we start individually.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
What I'm saying is that this is already being done if you look at it on a micro, macro level. Okay, we have these people who depicted themselves as God on the money and society on TV, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, the Eurocentric society as being moralistic.
Right.
Okay, we see them in our history books and stuff. Oh, we did this, and we're statues. The moral, the so and so, George Washington, yada yada. Okay, so in our minds, the psychological warfare is this person is God. We've been programmed to think that they are good people, that they're moralistic. That you shouldn't speak against it, even with all the different things corresponding this frequency. But yet and still, right in our face, we see the wars and the lying. We see the segregation still going on, only it looks different. We see the economy being controlled, and we see the denial of it. Okay, we see the denial of it. Now that's holding things into place, because that's part of the dark magic. Okay, that's what I'm saying.
Another area. Don't switch over now.
No, that's not. What I'm saying is, that's what I'm saying. In the same way, until they clear their hearts and get truthful about who and what they really are.
Can they?
That's between them and God.
I disagree.
No, it's not a
So that's between them
disagreement.
and God?
Okay, this is a ripple effect. Society works just like
You don't went in 1, 2, 3 areas now
No,
on a thing.
I'm
You don't
trying to.
went.
You asked me to clarify and explain,
Okay.
and you can't get it if you don't allow me to do that. Because sometimes we get heated and we don't hear what someone is saying.
What I'm saying, hold on, before we go on, let's put us
No,
on a
you
time.
keep interrupting me,
Okay,
and
I
that's
am,
not
but
very
your
cool.
time,
You asked me
I'm
to
asking,
clarify. Let me
I
clarify.
have no problem with that. Is what I'm saying is maybe we need to be on a time because you might go over, and psychologically you might not realize that you might go on over an extended time trying to explain your piece. I have no problem on it. However, if I'm talking, I'm trying to explain my piece. Let's do that together. Let me set a clock for that, and if I go like that, we can do it. And it's good that people hear that. Make sense?
Man, you just good practice for me, okay?
Okay,
All
no
right?
problem.
That's what
As
Spirit
soon as I
says
try,
to
and
me.
that's what, and is, and
Because
what I'm saying,
you represent, everything is a fractal, okay?
a fractal.
My
What is a
love.
fractal? I don't understand that.
Okay, a fractal is what I'm saying. It's a smaller part of a larger thing. Okay, and society, these individual things like the psychological programming, what I'm naming are the smaller parts of a larger thing.
Right.
So when I'm talking to you, I'm going micro, macro. I'm expounding on something that is a small issue, but because it's a small issue, it's like the cog in the ointment, or it's the fly in the ointment. It's the cog in the cog in the wheel. Okay, because that small thing messes up the big thing. If it wasn't in the small thing, like a disease, and it starts in one little cell and then it gets bigger, that's what we're talking about. And so when you ask me to expound on law, okay, it starts with the man. When we start clearing that stuff out individually, and the correspondence of that frequency will truly start to ripple out. That's why I say we already have that in effect on a macro level of people stating themselves basically as God, like they knew what they were doing. But we see the lawlessness, their clinging cymbals and sounding brass. We see this, and it's a time of revelations. We all see this. And if they don't see it themselves, then that's just the nature of darkness, okay? Because darkness can't comprehend the light. And it's not about color, it's about frequency. And so the law is written inside the heart. And so that's why I say when it comes to area and people, that it starts with the individual. We need to learn that as a people, as a Hebrew Israelite, about transcending light, about fractality, about marginalizing ourselves, compartmentalizing ourselves, and how that is the beginning. That's a major part of this disease when it comes to the psychological warfare that's been done on us as a people. Like Wusa, we need to learn to calm it down, take the ego out of it, and actually learn our relationship is with the actual creator, with the frequencies, the corresponding frequencies in the nature around us, the netter, with our truer selves, not and expounding it out. It's not out here where we were taught to put it at with the ego, where we can't get to know ourselves and look at the different aspects of things. It's in the micro, macro. That's all. That's all. To explain that part. And before we end, before somewhere, I wanted to respond back to the house nigger, field nigger thing that you were talking about. I think our daughter wants us, so. Okay, hold on a second. Malcolm X, eliminated for speaking up. But their energy lives on, and the force, not one life, not one puny life, to be quiet, just to be able to live, affecting nothing, but giving room and space for those people who were hidden, who want you to stay silent. But they gave precedent and life for how many people? And not just them, but there's many martyrs that we don't even know about when it comes to, if you know about government stalking and organized manipulation of the, let's just say, fear of a black more Messiah. Okay? If you know about the manipulation of society by way of using social institutions and sanctions, political stuff and economic things, manipulations in order to keep a whole social dynamic in groups of people, whether it be men, whether it be women, whether it be melanated men and women, or the uneducated men and women, or the uneducated women, okay? These things come back and haunt us. The karma of them is the seed we planted, are the repercussions of what happens within our society. And so we got daughters and we have sons. And we will allow something to happen to someone else's daughter and son, and we stand by and do nothing to feed ourselves. This tiny ember of life, instead of letting the fire burn and speaking about what it is that we're about, whether they are for it, yay or nay. It causes these allergic reactions to the truth that we see displayed in our society today, where we're told to be quiet. If a melanated man raises his voice against injustices, they say it's because he's poor, because he's uneducated, because he's bitter, because he didn't take his opportunities. They manipulate the use of social sanctions, social perceptions, and universal laws, saying you are the author and finisher of your own world, making no mention of the polarity, and that is someone else is doing the same thing, and they're the author and finisher of their world using energies, and they want the exact opposite that you want. And I've had a lot of time to prepare this place to do so, and that's why we call it the Matrix. One of the reasons why. So in the same reasons why a melanated man has the right to lift up his voice and speak about what's going on within our communities, right? His divine right and duty. Likewise, his daughter has a divine right and duty to speak up. Because if you don't, it's not reaching the conscious collective. Your opinion is not being weighed and measured. It's not being taken into account. And the heavens didn't speak out and make your proclamation before the court, before you all, for y'all. So it's not, shh, be quiet, little lady. Why they knock you around? You know, us men don't like it when you get loud. You get more flies with honey than you do with vinegar, little lady. Remember that when they try to devour or manipulate something it is that you feel like you owned, and you send out soldiers. You send out the guns and the tanks. You send out the poisons. You send out the laws. You send out the sanctions. You lift up your voice and you sang really, really freaking loud about being a man who's been violated. But yet, when another human being does it, you say, shh, because it shakes the conscious collective. It changes the order of things when people take note and attention to situations. And so, if I exist, then I know that my reflection exists. Not my counterpart, my enemy, or nothing like that. That means I ain't so big and bad. Somebody thinking like me exists. So I'm talking to them, soothing us, like, getting this collective thought together that we should contemplate this again when we're looking at the real deal, and the time is now, and our essence and our heart and spirituality, and we think we're playing with stuff. You can lie to your mama here in the flesh, but sometimes, you know what I'm saying, the consequences of your actions are you get hit in the butt by something else because you didn't listen. You didn't listen to the motherly voice, the sisterly voice, the voice of passion. You took too much into account opposition. I'm not the opposition. If you step on my foot, I'm going to say ouch unless I'm not human, unless I'm not feeling emotion. And just because people have high intellect or can astral travel, that does not mean that they should be the ones that are privy to making all the decisions, because perhaps they lack empathy. Perhaps they're so clairvoyant that they lack the ability to embed and relate to the fact that all is self. So the feelings and emotions need to come out. Where do they go? They certainly don't get examined. Like, how does your body, if we're a template of the body, right? And you stub your toe. You say, ouch! And then that sucker will probably swell up. If you hit it hard enough. That's an irritation. Then say you busted open and it became infected. You're going to need something for that. You're going to need some knowledge, some know-how on how to fix that. Okay? And if it didn't hurt, if you didn't say ouch, if it didn't swell up, if it didn't bring attention to itself, it would probably fall off and die, fall in the hole, so to speak, of not knowing how to solve that issue. Well, the divine femme is saying, ouch, okay? That's not it. That is not it. My love, my brothers, our fathers, our helpers, our teachers, our protectors, those who hold society up in place, who have daughters and wives and mothers, sisters, friends, lovers, great-great-grandmamas that you remember with great fondness. So all I'm saying is, cut the crap. If you hurt me, it's my duty to let you know. Otherwise, how would you know? And if you're not listening to me, just say, ouch, using the regular stuff that you said you wanted. You said you wanted the woman that didn't raise her voice, that was always ladylike. But look what you've done to her when she doesn't speak up. Look what has happened to the woman who gets things by way of what you enjoy. Ends up in the strip club with her hand out to get her rent paid. She can't just go to you as a sovereign, as a sister, as a mother, as a friend, and say, please help me to keep my dignity, to keep my pants on. Show me how to make my way in this world full of men and to use my skills, talents, and abilities in a way that is suitable without being devoured. So somewhere along the way, that avenue for that stopped being heard, obviously, or I wouldn't be here now wanting to scream. We wouldn't be listening to so many people wanting to scream. If what you wanted as melanated men, as men with no economy even, away from the black and white, it's all the same. No economy, no current. They're black and current, using gender and color and intellect as an excuse to sanction you. In the same way, you use the woman not fitting into a particular social dynamic by presenting herself to be heard. The men are playing that game too. That's gaslighting. And so that's why I say that the men are in a position of female submission, because by way of economy, your voice is snuffed out. They're using currency. It all starts with an idea, blocking off creative energy, and then pitting us against each other so that we can't see. You can't see that. All right? So sometimes you just need to let the wind blow. You need to let the storm, the thunder roar. In the same way that women, for centuries, have been standing by, letting men be men. And I don't mind, to a large degree. But we've gotten ridiculous. You know, it's like when the police go and kill somebody's child, and before the court case is over and the judgment is done, they're talking about how they're forgiving. Are they realizing what they're taking precedent to forgive? Well, if that's the social norm, then we can just keep going and doing it again and again and again and again. It's the social norm. This is the norm. Snatching children off the street. Using, just manipulating areas that were supposed to be clean. It was supposed to be clear. Well, now we know it wasn't clear. Hopefully this was clear. We know it wasn't clear because it was screaming and yelling and blaring. 9/11 wasn't quiet. That woke us up though, right? When has somebody being a sweet little lady gotten anything done that needed to get done on a large scale? This is a major injustice. It's not a hangnail. I don't need my toes done. I don't need a ride to the grocery store, and it's going to happen later, and I'm just being a little loud. These are serious violations that some of us are squawking about. You know? And some men, it's weird, talk about value. They feel like because she's an old bird, she doesn't even deserve a chance to be looked at because she's not your mom. You know? Anyway, this is the karma, the way that we look at things. You know, our perception is what we're getting back. So I'm desperately working on clearing up where I'm faltering at. But I am highly aware that there's been tampering in regards to my growth process. I'm going to thank Red and Blue Pill on Law 44 and the Fear of a Black More Messiah research that I've been able to attribute to reasons for gang stalking and social manipulation and, you know, outside of the regular matrix that we have, the extra other stuff that's going on, the other controls and sanctions that most people don't know are happening, you know, with gang stalking and silent noise technology, by using frequencies and stuff, handheld electronic devices, voice-to-skull technology, psychological manipulation. They're doing a lot of stuff. Putting love bites in people's path. Then you got, then you have the Klan, you know, that are using a lot of the social institutions and stuff. Basically, with the right affiliations and political power, you can pretty much manipulate a lot of stuff. Yup. And people like that tier, they're blind. They don't know why they're doing what they're doing. They're doing what they're doing because of the reason why they applied, why they signed on the dotted line. Perhaps they're doing what they're doing for white supremacy. Okay, kudos. Yo, do this for me over here. Stop this person's loan application, or, you know, stop their claim or whatever. they have on XYZ. Okay. And go pay off a judge or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Blocking you off the judicial systems and the laws and stuff like that. Those kind of manipulations. And then you have what do you call it when they're profiling, social profiling. We profile each other. You just know that person doesn't deserve any more. See, now, if we keep us feeling like we're not crap and we don't deserve certain things, then that's why we don't question it when they kill us. And what are we complaining about? We already feel like we're not worth nothing. So somebody else even tries to feel like they're worth more than you, and you don't feel like you're worth anything, or you feel like you're worth a certain amount, you got a label on it. You only feel like you're worth a certain amount, you've got a label on it. So anybody else that comes along that you feel is holding themselves above the pay grade that you gave your own doggone self, you want to hew them down. You want to mow them down. Because it messes with the confines of your reality. That's what's going on. And that's why the depiction of God has been manipulated in every culture to depict the culture, the dominating culture, or the culture that wants to dominate would need to depict themselves as God, because God in our minds is creator. And so we as ourselves as mini God, we know that through our id. We're creating a society, or we create the space, or we're master of this space or environment, and somebody comes up in there and they're complaining about something in your environment, an environment that you produced or that you enjoy, that you're getting benefits out of, and they're complaining, and they're not using a kind voice. Only thing you got to do is say a couple of things, because those are the social sanctions. Even if it's wrong, even if the law says, the Bible says, slaves, be submissive to your masters. Forget what context. You don't get an opportunity to go back in there and go through context and all that kind of stuff, because you already declared and identified yourself as the slave. Society has selected that. There's no way around it. If they tell you can't speak, you can't speak. Capiche? Forever hold your peace. You're married to the mirage. And then the cosign is when we don't recognize that we do the exact same thing to other individuals who look differently. It's fractals. Other situations that look different within our culture. Telling them that they shouldn't speak up, or that when they should speak up, they should be quiet about it. Be quiet about how we're hurting you, even though we didn't hear you when you were quiet. Okay? So when we talk about consciousness, being aware of things, it's hard. It's like birthing something, allowing things that we didn't see to come into the light. And man, I feel like I'm getting sideswiped with quite a lot. It's exhilarating, and it hurts, and I feel dizzy, and yet there's clarity. We're in the flame, so delicate. If we take a deep breath, will we go out? Or will we ignite the fire even further? To grow beyond this space. You know how fire goes through different stages of purification, even different levels of hot. Get to a certain level of hot where it's just red coal and then white, then burn white. Burn hot like iron. Like how when they make swords even. Watch what we say. But what we say forges the sword. This is a double blade speaking to you. Much love to you and yours. As above, so below. I want for myself what I want for my brothers and sisters. I want to be whole. I want to know myself. I want to love and to have life and to learn and for it to be bountiful and beautiful, vigorous, vicarious, joyful. I want that for you, and I want it for me too. And I'm glad we're doing it right now. I'm out. Yeah, so I'm out. Tell me to be quiet now. Because I love you. Did you know vinegar is really good to clear away negative auras? For your FYI, I just use some red apple cider vinegar. Yeah. Easier to catch more flies with honey than it is with... I'm not trying to catch flies. Much love, Sweet Pea.